Hello learners, today let's start with a period in history when many innocent Jews suffered as a result of Hitler's dictatorship. So let us begin with the Nazism and the rise of Hitler's chapter. Birth of Weimar Republic. Germany fought in the First World War from 1914 to 1918 alongside the Austrian Empire and against the Allies, which included England, France and Russia in the early 20th century. Because of the war, all of the Europe's resources were depleted. France and Belgium were occupied by Germany. However, the Allies, strengthened by the US entry in 1917, won, defeating Germany and the Central Powers in November 1918. At Weimar, the National Assembly met and established a democratic constitution with the federal structure. In the German parliament, deputies were elected on basis of equal and universal votes cast by all adults, including women. Germany lost its overseas colonies. The War Guilt Clause held Germany responsible for the war and damages the Allied countries suffered. The Allied armies occupied Rhineland in 1920s. Let's now move on to the effects of the war. The entire continent was devastated by the war, both psychologically and financially. The war of guilt and national humiliation was carried by the Republic and was financially crippled by being forced to pay compensation. Socialists, Catholics, and Democrats supported the Weimar Republic and were mockingly called the November criminals. The First World War left a deep imprint on the European society and polity. Soldiers were placed above civilians, but unfortunately, soldiers lived a miserable life. Democracy was a young and fragile idea which could not have survived the instabilities of the interwar Europe. Political radicalism and economic crisis. The Weimar Republic birth coincided with the revolutionary uprising of the Separatist League on the pattern of the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. They crushed the uprising with the help of a war veterans organization called Free Corps. Communists and socialists became enemies. Political radicalization heightened by the economic crisis of 1923. Germany refused to pay and the French occupied its leading industrial area. The image of Germans carrying cartloads of currency notes to buy a loaf of bread was widely publicized, evoking worldwide sympathy. This crisis came to be known as hyperinflation, a situation when prices rise phenomenally high. Now let's look at the years of depression. The years between 1924 and 1928 saw some stability. The support of the short-term loans was withdrawn when the Wall Street Exchange crashed in 1929. The Great Economic Depression started, and over the next 3 years between 1929 and 1932, the national income of USA fell by half. The economy of Germany was worst hit. Workers became jobless and went on streets with placards saying, "Willing to do any work." Youth indulged themselves in criminal activities. The middle class and small businessmen were filled with the fear of proletariatization, anxiety of being reduced to the ranks of working class or unemployment. Politically, also the Weimar Republic was fragile. The Weimar Constitution, due to some inherent defects, made it unstable and vulnerable to dictatorship. One inherent defect was proportional representation. Another defect was Article 48, which gave the president the powers to impose emergency, suspend civil rights, and rule by decree. Now let's discuss Hitler's rise to power. Hitler was born in 1989 in Austria and spent his youth in poverty. In the First World War, he enrolled for the army, acted as a messenger in the front, became a corporal, and earned medals for bravery. Hitler joined a small group called the German Workers' Party in 1919. He took over the organization and renamed it, giving it the name the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which later came to be known as the Nazi Party. In 1923, he planned to seize control of Bavaria, march to Berlin, and capture power. During the Great Depression, Nazism became a mass movement. After 1929, banks collapsed, businesses shut down, workers lost their jobs, and the middle classes were threatened with destitution. In such a situation, Nazi propaganda stirred hopes for a better future. Hitler was a powerful speaker and his words moved people. In his speech, he promised to build a strong nation, undo the injustice of the Versailles Treaty, and restore the dignity of the German people. He also promised employment for those looking for work and a secure future of the youth. He promised to weed out all the foreign influences and resist all foreign conspiracies against Germany. Hitler started following a new style of politics and his followers held big rallies and public meetings to demonstrate support. According to the Nazi propaganda, Hitler was called a Messiah, a savior, as someone who has arrived to deliver people from their distress. Now let's move on to destruction of democracy. President Hindenburg offered the chancellorship on 30th January 1933, the highest position in the cabinet of ministers, to Hitler. The first decree of 28 February 1933 suspended civil rights like freedom of speech, press, and assembly that had been guaranteed by the Weimar Constitution. On 3rd March 1933, the famous Enabling Act was passed, which established dictatorship in Germany. The state took control over the economy, media, army, and judiciary. Apart from the already existing regular police in the green uniform and the SA or the stormtroopers, these included the Gestapo, the secret state police, the SS, the protection squads, the criminal police, and the security service SD. Reconstruction. Economic recovery was assigned to the economist Hjalmar Schacht by Hitler, who aimed at full protection and full employment through a state-funded work creation program. This project produced the famous German superhighways and the people's car, the Volkswagen. Hitler ruled out the League of Nations in 1933, reoccupied the Rhineland in 1936, and integrated Austria and Germany in 1938 under the slogan, "One people, one empire, and one leader." Schacht advised Hitler against investing hugely in rearmament, as the state still ran on deficit financing. It's all for today. We will cover other topics in the next video. Thank you.